Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this session, Strategies for Implementing Enterprise and Supplier Development in Logistics. I'm delighted to welcome Mr. Tshepo MAKELANE from Imperial as the speaker this morning, and I look forward to your engagement, as does he. Tshepo is a supply chain professional and practitioner. He has worked in many industries, spanning FMG, utilities, oil and gas. And he's a transformational business leader and value creator through teamwork and partnerships. I've had the privilege of working with him very briefly on SAPEX's SMEE project, and I can testify that he is a great person to work with great vision. He's currently the Senior Vice President of Supplier Partnerships at Imperial Logistics, and maybe more importantly, or as importantly, he's the chairman of the MAKELANE Foundation, which focuses on underserved township schools and partners with community-based charities. So over to you, Tshepo. Thank you for your time and thank you for your support of SAPEX.
Yes. Thank you, Claire, and good morning, everybody. As Claire said, I'm Tshepo, and it's my passion to actually work with people and work with communities and work with suppliers, but most importantly, to create value for all. So I will be taking you through a few slides of what I've seen as successful implementation. Most of them I've been involved in, or I've worked with people that actually were involved in. So allow me to share some of my insights, and I'll be happy to take questions at the end as well. Okay, let's share my screen. Where's my stuff now? Oops, technical glitches. Oopsie. Apologies, just getting stuck. Okay, there we are. Okay. Can you all see my screen? Claire?
We can see your screen. Thank you, Tshepo, and you'll see all the little like buttons coming up the screen as well from the people watching.
Perfect. I've got my screen, so obviously I can't see who's on the other side. But so the title is ESD Strategies for Transporters, which is Enterprise and Supplier Development. So this is specifically talking about logistics and mostly truck owners or truck operators as well. Hence, we've got the trucks. So allow me then to go as to the objectives of this presentation. So firstly, I will want us to unpack the BEE codes relating to enterprise and supplier development. I'd also like to clarify the purpose of why most of us want to do ESD. I'd be happy to share some insights and give guidance as to how to best implement this within the transport sector. So if you're a transporter or you're a transport company or you're a client that requires transport services, this might be useful for you. And then I also want to highlight the value of the industry-specific mentoring and coaching within the transport sector. So why do companies or transporters want to implement ESDs? First and foremost, this is a very broad industry. I'm sure you would have seen lots of trucks on the road, whether it be trucks, tippers, tot liners, or whether it be the small bikies and stuff. All of them are involved in this sector. And we've seen that there is a lack of sustained and sustainable transformation within the sector. So companies would then want to use this as part of transforming the sector. We also use it to diversify our transport landscape in terms of ownership. So we want to encourage more diversified owners and even gender diversification as well. We haven't seen many women owners or women drivers. So this is something that we can also consider to be why people want to do ESDs. The other element is to diversify and localize the spend. So most of our companies or clients, they actually want to empower the local transporter that's very close to their doorstep. And I'm sure if you're in a mining community, you would see that there's a doorstep community there that's always asking for opportunities. And that's why we say let's diversify and localize the spend within that community. Most importantly, we want to ensure that there's capacity, within the industry. We want to develop it beyond what it is and to make sure that everybody performs to the same standards of transporting goods safely and reliably so. Where we've seen our strengths, especially in particular where I've been involved, it's just to encourage the collaboration and the partnerships amongst our transporters. The more they work together, the more we share experience, we share knowledge, but we also get to learn as to how to best implement some of our operational effectiveness. I also want to share that most companies would also want to enable their clients in terms of achieving their ESD. So, for example, you're a transporter, but you've got an FMCG or a retailer who's your client, and you could also help them and approach them to say, this is one way of actually helping them to achieve their ESD strategies by partnering with you as a transporter and by working with you as well. If you're a retailer or a company, then you can also implement some of these to further improve your spend profile and your ESD plans. We also want to make sure that we increase the scope and the contracts of these transporters, because the more they've got bigger scope and the contracts, the more sustainable that they can be. And it's just for them now to focus more on operational efficiency and getting things right, making sure that the service levels and safety standards are up to scratch. So that's generally why people want to implement ESD. And then within the BBBEE codes, for logistics, there's actually 2 scorecards. And these scorecards mainly, we've got what we call the road freight scorecard, which all of us within the transport sector actually comply with. Then we've got the DTI generic code, which still has to be promulgated and actually implemented. But why am I showing you these 2 is because on the road freight one, we've got over 25 or over 35 points allocated to preferential procurement and to enterprise and enterprise development. That's 35 points that's currently allocated. If you look at the generic scorecard, we've actually bundled both preferential procurement, enterprise development, and supply development into one. And here we've got 40 points with 2 points as a bonus. So this is now called the ESD on the generic scorecard. So most of the logistics companies and transporters, they will do the road freight scorecard and follow it through, but some are also implementing the generic scorecard in the event that the DTI promulgates this and make it the standard. Companies would have actually transitioned easily, and they will say, we have been reporting on it, and therefore they can actually carry on reporting better on the generic scorecard. So why I'm showing this is that there is more points on the generic scorecard, meaning there is more emphasis on how we do ESD going forward. So as I've said, ESD within the new generic codes, it's split up into preferential procurement, enterprise development, and supply development. So what do this mean? So if you are within your procurement team, you probably would know that within BBBEE, everybody has got a preferential procurement target, which is actually the spend with BBBEE compliant suppliers. What do we mean by BBBEE compliant suppliers? It's basically any supplier who's done verification of their ownership, verification of their spend, and they can get an ownership level they can get a black ownership level. They can also get a level 3, level 5 certification. So it's not necessarily black owned, but obviously it is advisable for you to spend more with black owned and black women owned. But any company that's currently following the BBBEE compliance, they will fall into your preferential procurement. Over and above that, what we call as enterprise development, it's actually a target of 1% of your net profit after tax that you can spend with black-owned suppliers within your supply chains or within your procurement. So this is 1% of your NPAT. That's a target, and this includes you giving loans to your suppliers, you assisting them to grow capacity. And then what we call supply development. Supply development, you see it's 2% target of NPAT that is spent with black-owned EMEs and QSEs, but this is within your supply chain. Okay, ED, you can do it outside of your supply chain, but SD is actually within your supply chain, within your value chain, and hence it's called supply development. And all of this is called enterprise and supply development. So the generic objectives of any company who implements these, firstly, is to improve that BBBEE scorecard on a sustainable basis. So that is the keyword. So all of us, we want to make sure we develop these ESG objectives to be sustainable. We mostly want to increase the pool of black-owned companies within our supply chains or within our sector. We want to ensure that the spend is diversified, and we increase the spend with BEE compliant transporters. We also want to encourage win-win partnerships between large and small transporters, because we've seen that a big brother can play a role, including ourselves as Imperial. We do play a role in terms of how do we help smaller companies and transporters to actually perform at the right level. We want to make sure these partnerships are sustainable within the localized community as well. And most importantly, once you get the right ESD strategies in place as a transporter or logistics company, you're able then to work with your clients or to actually help them implement their ESG strategies as well. Because you now got a pool of transporters that can safely and reliably transport their goods within the country as well. So what I've seen in my past life in other companies and in my current occupation is that the incubator model actually works. So we cannot just do haphazardly ESD. A company has to have a program, and the program must be defined as to what are the objectives of that ESD program. And once you've got the program, then what we have done is that we want to focus on that grouping of transporters to help them through our ESD program, help them grow, help them get them trained, and obviously help them to perform. So we put them through what we call an incubator program. But how do we go through that? We obviously have to first identify who those beneficiaries would be. If it's within our supply chain, we've got a big pool of transporters that we can actually put through the PACES assess, and then we can select the ones that actually meet the criteria. If it's within a client scenario, the client can say, we're operating in Marikana, and within Marikana, we want to actually put an ESD program for transporters for the locals, and therefore we'll work with the client and actually help them to come up with those beneficiaries. So some could be startups from scratch, some could be new existing ones, and obviously the focus is always on black-owned and black women-owned, and most of them have to demonstrate that they want to be business owners, and not just in terms of ownership, but very, very hands-on. So we always look for hands-on people, because then we know that they've got skin in the game and they can make things happen. Once they've been selected, we then put them through the incubator program. So you could also do something similar within your business, or you could, as a transporter, ask to be included in an ED program as well. So in this case, loans are provided, interest-free loans are provided where applicable for you to actually purchase fleet or increase your fleet. There is a non-financial support that could be provided with regards to training. You could get a contract that actually helps you for the next 3 to 5 years, and then obviously that loan has to be repaid. And you will see in that program, once you're there, it's a 3 to 5 year incubation program. Some can graduate earlier, but we think 3 years it's solid enough for somebody to come out as a logistics operator at the end. The loan repayments could also be paid over that period as well. Along with the ESD, we also mentoring and coaching. I mean, I've grown within my career because I've had lots of mentors, lots of coaches that have actually guided me, that I've soundboarded ideas with. And even in this case, we think the role of a coach plays a far bigger factor in terms of your success as well. Ultimately, at the end, we want to have a competent transporter that now has its own balance sheet, own fleet, and is able to compete with the likes of the bigger companies for business. You could be exposed to more opportunities as well because you are now competent. You've proven yourself. You now got the feel of how to actually run a business profitably. Then you graduate, and graduation leads to growth. But I think most importantly, in any ED project, if at the end a transporter has to have a propped up balance sheet, it makes it much easier for them to continue to grow and build on that basis as well. So some of the key strategies that we've seen that works much, much better. So the barriers to entry within the trucking business are quite high. I mean, it's very expensive for you to start today and say, let me go buy a truck. On average, a truck trailer combo is about 3 million rands, and not every one of us have got that amount of money sitting around. So you obviously will have to go and get funding from somewhere else. So we always advocate that if you've got some form of balance sheet or some form of collateral, you could use that. But if you can get a contract, it also helps you to actually deal with the challenge of acquiring fleet. And we know that it is a challenge to start from scratch to run a company profitably, especially within the logistics environment. So what we've seen to sustain our transporters is that they require continuous flow of business, movement of product. Whether you're moving product from Portsmouth in the north to PE, you like to have that product, on a continuous basis, and most likely you want to have a return load as well, because that way it's also a factor that kills some companies as well. Most of our transporters, they would prefer to deal directly with the client, because then the client has got visibility of who you are. The client pays you your full fee, and the client can also claim ESD points. However, we've seen that brokering in this environment is quite a big factor, because some of the big companies have got good partnerships and they are able to attract subcontractors to their portfolio. And obviously here, cost competitiveness becomes a key element, because a broker will try and get the best deal for the client primarily. And obviously, if you're a good transport and savvy, you can also get a good rate as well. But you have to be very cost competitive, flexible, agile, but also you need to make sure that whatever loads you take, you understand the profitability of that load, the profitability of that route as well as a subcontractor, which is something that we also help contractors learn, and how to price the job correctly as well. We've seen that to sustain the transporters in this environment, it's very desirable for them to ensure that they've got 3 to 5 year contracts where applicable. And because once they've got contracts, they're able to perform. There's at least a form of income that's coming in over a period. They're able to grow into this business as well and go through the hard and easy times of transporting products. So at the end, they come out very, very stronger, wiser, and good transporters at the end. We've also seen that you could also achieve your supply development objectives through direct contracting as well. So we, as a bigger logistics company, we do contract directly with our subbies, albeit on our client contracts, but we've also encouraging clients to say also give subcontractors contracts directly. In some cases, we've actually split the contract where we take 70 and get the subcontract to take 30% as well. So it's a flexible model because we also want to make sure we develop and empower our subcontractors. So I'll give an example of what we've done as well. And again, I'm going to be sharing some of the success stories. I want to mention names just to protect them. But there is a mining client that actually contracted with 10 local transporters. These transporters were basically not even within the logistics environment. They were normal business operations within the mining community. But through a partnership between us and the mining company, we were able to select 10 businesses that actually we transformed into transporting companies. A 5-year contract was given. On average, each transporter basically was awarded a 20 million per annum contractor. Now imagine you were a business owner who was just a spaza shop operator earning less than 100,000 per annum. The following month, you're actually a logistics owner with a contract of 20 million. So yes, it's quite a big leap and it's also quite scary. But we formed a very constructive partnership between the mining client and the local transporters. We've localized the spend. We'll help them diversify the spend as well. But most importantly, they've also appointed us as a large company to actually oversee the operation of these 10 local transporters in terms of planning, in terms of managing, in terms of executing, safely executing the loads. But our aim is to actually capacitate, train, and support them to become self-sufficient and most importantly, sustainable in the long term. So this contract is one example where a client and a big logistics company have partnered together to create and ensure that they've got a proper ESD program for the doorstep community. Obviously, the benefits are quite plenty in this case, in that goodwill has been established to say that the mining company actually is committed to developing its community. There has been a community upliftment. There's jobs. There's adjacencies that have also come through, because now you've got logistics companies who have to employ drivers from the community. You've got services that has to be provided to these transport companies, and again, that's also being pulled from the community. So this one is one example where I think ESD has been well implemented, and through partnerships from a logistics company, a community a team, and also the mining company as well. The other ones that we've got where clients are quite specific in terms of their requirements, and clients of large logistics companies such as yourself, they've got their own ESD, and most of them obviously they will focus on their supply chain, and focus on what they purchase within their procurement teams. But all of them, they do require logistics and transportation services. So when we know and we've sat around the table in terms of co-creation and collaborating, we actually unpack their strategies, such as the set-asides, strategies where they set aside a portion of their procurement spend to the locals, where they localize their spend, within a doorstep community, and most importantly, they directly contract with the service providers. So once we know these things, we actually work with the client to say, let's help you implement them. Yes, we do get contracts, bigger contracts, but some we're happy to take smaller contracts for the benefit of the whole as well, for the benefit of the community and for the benefit of the client as well. So through this, we've seen that FMCG companies are working with us. We established long-term partnerships with them. Mining companies are successfully working with us to actually implement these strategies. And we are quite at the center of it because our role is so much to be an industry leader, but also to ensure that we capacitate, we transfer skills, and we actually play a role in terms of developing these transporters even further as well. What we've also seen that works well is the enterprise development financial support. So we, as a big company, we do provide loans within our service base, but we've also seen that clients are also willing to actually collaborate with us and actually put in their own ED funds. Remember, I've said companies all have the 1% NPAT target that they have, that they can actually use as form of enterprise development financial support. So most of the subcontractors that have gotten ED loans, it's mostly to buy kit. It's mostly to renew their fleet and obviously to add capability. What do I mean by that? Let's say you've got somebody today that's got a tot liner with a Volvo or Mercedes a truck, and tomorrow there's an opportunity within the tippers business. So they obviously have got the truck. So now he has to go, or he or she has to go and buy a tipper. So that's what I mean by capability. So you can now do both general freight and you can also do bulk commodities as well. Most transporters, they always want to grow. So we've seen a transporter starting from one truck, an old a lady having one truck, and today she's got 10 trucks. We've seen companies that have grown from 10 trucks to now about 20 trucks. So for us, that's what we like to see, that there's capacity that is being given. There's companies that have grown, and obviously financial institutions are also quite keen to help fund some of these capacity requirements, albeit at a slightly different interest, compared to us. But what we always advise is that transporters and their clients, they need to consider the provision of ED loans to further capacitate and sustain transporters within their value chains as well. It helps foster partnerships, it helps sustain the transporters, and you're obviously getting loyalty as a client, that you will have a loyal transporter that's dedicated to you as well. So I'll give an example of where we've seen this happen. So we've seen a big logistics company that has provided loans to some of its subcontractors. They've given loans between 4 and 15 million to beneficiaries. Their aim was to grow and help transform the industry. These loans were used to purchase a fleet and add new capability. What we've seen is that the beneficiaries have grown from just being one truck operator to 5 to 10, and their scope as well has also increased. Of clients as opposed to only this logistics company. For us, we see this as a still example of how other logistics companies enable ESD within their supply chains. Some of you might have done something similar, but we encourage that this can be replicated. It's not so complex, but it requires that the loans are given on a basis that sound to both you as a client or as a big logistics company to your partner in a subcontractor as well. The other one that we've seen as one of the key elements of ESD, it's actually the provision of non-financial support. So this is something that most companies do, but they're very silent on it. They don't really overemphasize the value of this initiative. But what I've seen through my engagements with subcontractors or smaller transporters, they actually value this non-financial support. Not all subcontractors or transporters, small ones, want to come to you for money. or contracts. Some actually want to be capacitated from a technical point of view. So, and I've seen the value of this, whereby technical training is provided for transporters. So what do I mean by that? We basically, a truck gets parked in front of you and you basically get to understand what a truck entails, the tires, the driving of the truck, the kit that has to come with the truck, the safety elements, drive cams, the fuel management of the truck, how to safely park and stop a truck. So for us, this is something that we've seen value on. If you've got a number of drivers that you want to make sure their competency is actually at the right level. So this is something that we offer through our academy, but I know most other logistics companies, they offer driver training and assessments. We also seen with regards to safety, health, and quality, both clients and large logistics companies actually offer this. So if you are going to be moving product for a mine, for example, the mine has got its own safety, health, and quality, requirements. So as a transporter, you need them to be compliant with that standard, because then it means that they can train you on the standard, they can capacitate you, but it then helps you to remain a safe operator. And in this industry, a safe operator, it's one that everybody trusts as well. We've also seen that non-financial support can also come with regards to managing and operating your depots. So not everybody will have a depot, but I've seen an example somewhere in Lephalale, in Limpopo, where a local transporter has been hosted by a large logistics company, and they've been given office space, there's job shadowing there, they're being shown how to actually operate a depot, how to run your trucks, how to actually run a workshop as well. So for me, this is also quite keen, because people might think this is a very nice industry until you get to be in a depot, be in a truck. You won't understand how much it requires of you and how much hands-on you need to be for you to understand this business. So we actually help them with this kind of stuff. We also help them to price and cost opportunities the right way, in terms of selecting routes, how to select the best route for you to transport product, how to cost that route, and obviously how to come up with the right costing model that your client will be happy to accept and actually give you that business as well. So we're quite hands-on when it comes to that. With regards to maintenance, I've always said, and I share this with most of our trucking companies, that a well-maintained truck is actually a profitable vehicle. The return on the assets and on investment will be achieved if you maintain your vehicle very well. So we keep helping them and training them on the maintenance programs, how to purchase tires, how to rotate tires, how to rethread, where to get spares. Obviously, we recommend OEM spares, and because we know it comes with a lot of guarantee and performance as well. Other non-financial support that you're providing is around fuel management techniques. Fuel could cost up to 40% of your operational costs. So how you manage your fuel expenses, how you manage your kilometers traveled by your driver, and this is a metric that we always encourage all our subcontractors and transporters to always have top of mind. You need to know what is your fuel per kilometer, usage consumption at any given moment, because then you will know when it's out of kilter, and then you'll put the right driver or the right driver techniques to make sure that your fuel is well preserved and it goes the long mile. What we've also seen, this is not a very, if I should use that word, team, it's not a sexy business. So customer centricity and customer, what do you call this, techniques, it's not something that people in this industry strive for. They just want to make sure they pick up the load, deliver the load, and turn the truck around. But we've seen that if you train your subcontractors around customer, who is the customer? What does that customer value over and above your normal service levels, your turnaround times? but you being cognizant that customer issues got other needs, how you show up to the site, having your PPE in a clean PPE, how you present yourself to the security officer and to the client at the mine or the client, it actually counts a lot, because we get feedback to say we're quite happy with this subcontractor or this transporter. They're so professional. They know their stuff. If we ask them about a missing a load, they're quite quick to revert back to us. So we also emphasize this because this helps to retain the client, but most importantly, it helps you as a transporter to have more of the business from that client as well. So these are all non-financial support. However, if you are providing this kind of support to a transport as part of your ESD, you could claim up to 75% of your hours here. So for example, if I've spent 20 hours in a month, helping transporters, I could claim up to 15 hours as part of our ESD. So it's not something that we do it for, just freely, but there is a benefit to a company as well from an ESD point of view. But obviously the client here is the transporter that we want to fully make competent and capacitate. I hope you're still with me there. I'm almost at the end. What I have seen to be a differentiating factor in all ESD programs, it's actually the industry-specific coaching. When I was at a petrochemical business, also working within this space, it was important for us to have somebody who's actually operated and managed operations within this industry to be appointed as a coach or a mentor for some of the developing transporters. Same in our industry today, it's always important that we actually provide the right mentors for the right business, because then they will add more than just your general business management techniques. These are the guys who've been under the trucks. These are the guys who've done oil changes. These are the guys who've actually managed their drivers, and they know the ins and outs. And for you to have them as a coach and mentor, it goes a long way. So there's definitely a large a network of these mentors who are former business owners, who are also former truckers themselves. And we use them for startups and SMEs to make sure that we provide that coaching for them. The coaching includes, amongst many things, operations management, how you manage your fuel, your fleet maintenance, how you code for new work and make sure you always win the work, how to manage your top line. This is how you're going to manage your sales, because everything here is rent per time. So they help you show if you're going for this rate, make sure that your profitability metrics are also quite sound, and you immediately know what your profit would be before you even price that load. So we help them with this kind of support. As I've said, there's many willing and experienced trackers out there who are willing to provide for this coaching. So some of them can do it freely out of their passion and goodwill, but some will obviously want to be compensated. And we as a big company, we're quite keen to sponsor that. And I mean, even your clients will be happy to also help find some of it where possible. But we've seen that if you can pair a good coach with a very good SME that wants to learn and grow, it can become a big success factor in this environment. What we've seen that also worked, and again here the jury is still out, but if you can put the right partnerships between a large transporter and a small transporter, it can also go a long way. We've seen that big logistics companies embrace their own ESD plans by either supporting current employees to be owner drivers and or partner with some of them and adopt them to be their ED transporter. In the past, we've seen how a brewing company did the owner driver scheme that dismally failed. So all of us have learned from those lessons, and we don't want to repeat the same lessons. But what we've seen where transport companies empower their owner drivers properly, give them the right kit, give them the right, tools for them to manage and successfully be supported to run those businesses. And this has proven to be successful as well. There's a nice skill, knowledge, and transfer that could happen with the right partnership. So we get this big logistics company that partners with a small one, and then we see how they actually co-create, cross-functionally share information and skills, and ultimately the small transporter will benefit from this experience as well. Most of the large logistics companies that we've dealt with, they've actually got big contracts, and they're quite happy to also share those contracts with their identified SME as well. So for us, we've seen that this could also help a small company, and it's part of doing ESD, but ESD within your supply chain as well. Okay, I'll just share one more example and I should come to an end. For example, there is a gas company that has developed its own driver scheme, whereby it selected about 10 employees who've demonstrated entrepreneurial flair and also business acumen. The employees were each provided with funding, so they were funded for their trucks. They each got 2 of those trucks, so in total it's about 20 trucks on this contract. The startup companies were then partnered with a big company such as ourselves, where we provide then the training, the mentoring, performance management, the safety standards, and we help them perform to those standards. Again, a portion of the contract here was split, whereby a portion was given to the owner drivers and the rest was given to the bigger logistics company. But overall, there is a good performance that's been achieved thus far between the 3 parties, meaning the gas company, its own owner drivers, and the logistics company within this chemical space as well. So in summary, and I know it's short, but for me, I think I just wanted to highlight some of what works best, and be practical about it. So what we've seen is that ESG initiatives are a great tool to actually diversify your spend. Incubation of SMEs has helped in terms of hand-holding and actually setting free a very successful transporter at the end. Support can be financial and non-financial, and both of them work very well where it's fit for purpose. We've seen that all clients that require transportation services can achieve both their BBBEE compliance and supply development through the cultivation of transporters / their own suppliers. Partnerships within the transport sector definitely leads to growth and sustainable business. Okay, so this is something that we want to make sure we share. Access to opportunities and contracts is key to supporting and growing SMEs. Yes, we know funding is available, and it's available not just only for from the client or the logistics companies, but there are funding houses that are able to actually help fund you if you've got a contract or you've got a potential partnership as well. I'm a proponent of focused mentorship and coaching, because I've seen that it increases the rate of success for new transporters, and it actually helps them, make them competent as well. So what we're seeing that clients they want to strengthen their ESG plans, and most importantly, they also want to make sure they are seen as a good partner by the doorstep communities and transporters. So we also encourage this. So that's me in summary. And then lastly, I just want to say what the late Mother Teresa once said: I can do things you cannot. I know you can do things that I can't do, but together we can do great things. And that's what I think I want to share with most of us, that partnerships work. When we pull our thoughts, our thinking, and our actions together, we can do much more. So this is what I'd like to leave you with. Claire, I'm good to go.
Thank you, Tshepo. That was brilliant. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I love the fact that you did practical explanations on the BE points and the financial issues and support details. That was fantastic. And I also think that it's imperative that big organizations working with SMEs ensure that they do remain sustainable and still operational for a good number of years, so that there's an ongoing, relationship. And also fabulous to see the case studies, and especially thanks to Imperial for that amazing support that they've done. And also, I think important, as you raised, to learn from other programs in similar industries and to learn from each other and to work collaboratively and not to just keep all your learnings. We have some comments, two saying that you look very smart and your bow tie is fabulous. So that was a good start. We have two questions, Tshepo. And somebody wants to have a chat with you afterwards. So let's just start with Liesel. Sustainable supply chains is currently a big focus area for clients, and transport is a big contributor to emissions within a supply chain. Are you including awareness on green transport or measuring carbon emissions in your training?
Thank you, Liesel, for that question. It's something that we are only embarking now in terms of driving. So we are talking about green fleet. I'm not sure if you've heard, but we announced as Imperial that we are in the process of purchasing a green fleet that uses hydrogen, for example. We want to make sure that we partner with the likes of the big truck manufacturers in terms of coming up with new green fleets as well. So it's something that we are sharing, but I like your question. We'll definitely give more focus on it as well to say how do we do it more and reduce the emissions as well.
Great. You can always reach out to Liesel because that's what she does. She's very passionate about that.
Happy with it.
Thanks, Hayley, for the being part of the SME SAPEX committee and your support today. Renee has a question. ESD requirements differ in various countries in Africa. Good question. How do you transfer best practices given the Imperial African footprint?
A very good question. I was once an expert in Nigeria, and I've seen how things happen there. So, Renee, I think in South Africa, we've got BEE, which is well defined. In other African countries, they've got localization and economic development policies, which are similar to BEE because they foster the localization. So for us as Imperial, we've got a business that's actually taking products all over Africa called Market Access. So the Market Access team comply and get to know more about the localization requirements. What we've got internally as Imperial, we've got a BE committee which are set on, and we also cross-pollinate and share amongst ourselves some of these African countries, like, local laws. And then we say, how do we learn from there? How do we prep ourselves so that when we go in that country, we're able to also partner with it? We released our social and economic impact but last week. Actually, in Lagos, in Nigeria and Ghana, I think we had an impact of localization of about 150 million or so that we actually shared with the public as well. So something that we do on the continent as well. Excellent.
Just two more quick questions, and then I'll just encourage everybody to go to the SAPEX stand, the SME stand, or to chat in the lounge. But what mechanisms do you use to ensure recovery of interest-free loans?
Sure. It's a good question. Thank you for that. So I think first and foremost, we don't just give out loans freely. So we follow proper due diligence. We make sure that we can support an SME that's got collateral or can be able to service that. So we have had some defaulters. So we've learned our lessons as well. Some companies have asked us for payment breaks. We've given them that. But how we secure that, when we purchase a fleet on your behalf, that this will come out in the company, in the transporter's name. but the actual ownership still is with us. So in the event that we default, we've got an asset that we could actually put in the market and recoup some of those funds as well.
Good idea. Last question from Greta. Does Imperial have their own coaches and mentors who provide guidance to suppliers?
Yes, we've got lots of them.
Okay, fabulous. So yes. I think just before we close, just to remind everybody who's listening, and thanks to everybody for their participation this morning. SAPEX has recently introduced a new initiative to support SMEs with their supply chain operations requirements, and we are doing that through webinars, offering training programs, working with organizations such as Imperial and other large manufacturing companies to assist them with their ESD initiatives. So for more information on this, I'd like to encourage you all to head over to the SAPEX SME stand. And Mike would like to reach out to you too, Tshepo. I will share each other's contacts, Mike, Daniel, with you so that you've both got those. And just in case you can't find each other on the attendee list. But thanks, Tshepo. Thanks for all the fantastic work you do at Imperial and in your own capacity, and all the best to you for the future.
Thank you all. Have a safe day, Feda.
Bye now.